open to the light, so to speak. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful because my husband and I prayed for about 10 years. We literally saw the same faces for about 10 years. And this is all me. And that's only God. Only God can do that. So, anyways.
Sure. I'm Cheryl Wilberg. I've been active with the Tulsa County GOP since about 2008. This last fall I presented, or summer I guess, presented a series of classes on how city government works, how county government works, and how state government works, which I'm getting ready to do again. I'm the Northeast Oklahoma field representative for John Eccles for Attorney General. I am volunteering on a couple of grassroots campaigns for governor and lieutenant governor, and everybody, not everybody knows me, I'd say, but most people have seen me at most events because I'm there, I show up. I do whatever needs to be done, and it's what I want to do here as well.
Thank you, Cheryl. Dana and Cheryl are working on our elections, so I won't interrupt them. I would like to say something to what Angela just said about COVID. That's the reason I'm here. That's the reason this club is here. Our eyes were open to everything that they were doing. I knew it was fake from February of 2020. I just knew it. Yeah, so I'm very angry about the fact that it happened, but I'm very thankful that it happened because I would not have met probably any of you. So, yeah, I guess it was a blessing in disguise.
What Satan means for evil, God will use for good.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Amy.
Sorry, we had a lot of new people today.
Okay.
A lot of new memberships.
Well, okay, since they're gonna be working on that for a while, would you guys all agree to stay after Grant speaks so that we can hold the vote?
Yeah.
Okay, so former Tulsa City Councilman Grant Miller.
He's gonna run for something, he doesn't know what yet.
Which one was it, Cheryl?
PC. You'll probably have to wake up the PC first.
We had this all set up, I promise.
You want me to know my junk out of there? I'm sorry.
All right. My name's Grant Miller. I appreciate you having me here today to speak. If you don't know, I am a U.S. Army veteran and former law enforcement officer. I served on the Tulsa City Council for 2 years before going to, well, at the end of going to law school at TU, I ran for city council, won that election, and subsequently passed the bar, but wasn't admitted to the bar for various reasons related to my service to the city. That's not the subject today, but just as a little background.
Tell everybody.
I didn't know about
Yeah.
that.
We'll cover all that in another. We'll cover all that in another meeting.
Will you go ahead and use the microphone? It does help a little. Thank you.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Better.
Just up to your mouth.
Can we turn it up?
It helps.
No, it doesn't. That's as good as it gets.
Okay.
And Cheryl.
All right.
Hey Grant, will you repeat exactly what you just said, because a lot of people didn't hear.
No,
Yeah,
because
so
he didn't
my name's
send it
Grant
to me.
Miller. I'm a former,
It's
I'm a
just
U.S.
from email,
U.S.
so
Army veteran and
mess
former
it
law
up.
enforcement officer, former member of the Tulsa City Council. I was elected in 2022. I went to TU Law, graduated there, passed the bar exam, but was not admitted to the bar. A lot of it in relation to my service on the City Council. But as I said, that's not really the subject for today. Today I'm here to discuss some issues that I brought up on the city council related to transparency and committee meetings, which ultimately lead to a lot of self-dealing and Tulsans and people in the area not getting the projects and not getting the funding for the projects that they're really wanting and that we need in the city of Tulsa. And for anybody who's not from the city of Tulsa, it's worth noting that if you're ever told that you shouldn't have a say because you're a Bixby or Broken Arrow or Wasso resident, you spend your tax money here just like everybody else does. You come here, you pay sales taxes, and the economic and social policies of the city of Tulsa affect your well-being as well. So if they ever ask you where you're from, that really doesn't matter. If you're in the general area of Tulsa, you're going to be affected by the policies of the Tulsa City Council. So what I wanted to cover today is, well, I forgot to mention one thing. I'm also, as you might have gained from what I just said, an outcast at City Hall. And so I was wondering if anybody here knows what exactly you have to say or do to become a Tulsa City Hall outcast. Any guesses? Very little. Very little.
Address what's going on.
Address what's going on. Yeah,
Ask
good.
questions.
Ask
You addressed
questions.
it?
Yep. Okay. What else?
Serve your constituents.
Okay. Yeah, those are good ones. What I have written down here is demand openness and transparency for one. If you do that, you'll quickly find yourself on the sidelines. Demand thorough reviews of budgeting and tax proposals. If you do not go along with what you're told to go along with or what the rest of the council goes along with, you'll quickly get the side eye and be sidelined. And demanding that residents, the people whose tax money they're spending, be involved in the decisions that are being made. They definitely don't want that. And so I'll jump right into how they avoid that. Then we'll go into a microcosm of the bigger problem, which is transparency in the city of Tulsa, and how that kind of ultimately plays out. And the example that I'll give you is just a small example of what happens on a much larger scale, but it's what I feel is a very obvious and easy one to follow along with, so it's the example that I chose today. And then we'll go back to what we can do to solve the problem. So the first problem that we have and what we must address, there's all of these different issues that all of you have. You might be interested in talking about roads or smart cities or bike lanes or Zinc Lake or the Gilcrease Museum or a million different projects that the city has going at any one time. But what we really have to do is focus on first principles and how we can have a say and how we can know what's going on within those projects. If we don't have transparency in the city, if the residents can't see and hear what's going on and see their government work, then they can't very easily have an effective voice in the projects that are going on. So one of the things that we have on the books is the Open Meetings Act, we have the Open Records Act. But we're going to talk today about the Open Meetings Act first and kind of what that requires. One of the things, some of the terms that are important to know about the Open Meetings Act are what a quorum of the council is first and foremost. So we have 9 council members. If at any time 5 of those councilors meet, then we have a quorum of the council, which just means a majority of the council. But if 5 or more councilors don't meet, then we don't have a quorum and the requirements of the Open Meetings Act is not triggered. So the purpose of the Open Meetings Act is so that you, the residents, can see your government work, not just see your government vote. You're supposed to be able to listen to the debate, listen to the pros and cons of any given proposal. You're supposed to be able to hear what your representatives are saying about these proposals, and then you can decide if you agree or disagree with them, and then you can petition your government to go one way or the other on any given issue. But if the Tulsa City Council can avoid triggering the Open Meetings Act, then they don't have to keep minutes. They can go in in the boardroom, close the door, talk about these things, debate these things. They technically aren't allowed to come to any agreement or conclusion, but they can come out and then with the whole council, they can make a decision together after this advisory committee comes out and tells them what was talked about behind closed doors, or at least they put on the appearance of that being the case. So this is my experience on the city council is they would create these subcommittee, advisory subcommittees. And one example of that is the 3H task force, which is the housing, homelessness, and mental health task force. That ended up shaping about $75 million of your IoT 3 package out of the $814 million. You will see a piece of that $814 million allocated to housing. But in the ordinance, they required, or they said that after consulting with the 3H task force, that they would decide how the $75 million will be spent. So but what they do is they go to create these committees, that being one of them, and they say, who wants to be on this committee? And all the counselors who want to be on it raise their hand. If 5 people decide they want to be on it, they say, whoa, no, we got to keep it below, it's got to be 4 or less. And there's a very specific reason for that. It's so that it doesn't have to be open to the public, so they don't have to keep minutes, so they don't have to allow you to hear what they're saying and doing within the committee meeting. And this is not something, when you hear that, a normal person would think, that's no good. We don't want our representatives talking about city business behind closed doors without our input, or at least without us being able to hear what they're talking about. But this is not a secret at the city of Tulsa. They openly say, we can only have 4 counselors. It's like they're oblivious to the fact that transparency is important to their constituents. And so I always refused to participate in any of those. I was offered to be on them from time to time, and I would ask the question, well, is it gonna be open to the public? Because they could choose to adhere. If they really just wanted it to be efficient, they could still have 4 counselors on there. It's not like if they have 4, then they can't have an open meeting. They could choose to have a subcommittee, advisory committee, and have it open to the public and still follow all of the rules of the Open Meeting Act and allow you to see and hear what's going on. But they don't have to do that, right? And so I would always ask, is it gonna be open to the public? And the answer would always be no. And my answer would always be, well then no, I don't wanna be a part of that, that committee. And so that kind of sets the baseline. So there was another committee that was created once we received federal ARPA funding. And we received that funding, and I don't want to quote the amount. I think it was one allocation was 12 and one allocation was 7 million, but it's kind of irrelevant to what I'm about to tell you. We had millions of dollars of ARPA funding that came down, and the city decided that they were going to give that out in the form of grants to certain organizations. And the city when they decide they're going to give money out in the community, the city puts out what is called an RFP, which is a request for proposal. That allows the people who are eligible to receive this funding to put in an application for the funding and then either be approved or disapproved. In this case, the RFP required that organizations who were going to receive a portion of this $7 or $12 million, whatever it was, had to be 501c3 organizations. Now, there's a big difference between a 501c and a 501c3 and a 501c6. The big difference is a 501c3 has to have a charitable purpose, and a 501c6 serves the interests of the members of its organization. So there's a very good reason why they would say we only want 501c3s to have this money, because they wanted the grant money to go to organizations in Tulsa who were going to do charitable work around Tulsa. They did not say 501c6s are eligible, because obviously they don't want to give out grant funding to organizations whose mission is to support their members. That doesn't help the city at all, okay? So they put out this RFP, and here's a portion of it, and this is, if you can see that, where they required that there be that the organization receiving funding be a 501c3. They also put on a presentation. It was an online presentation, a slideshow where they went through it, also requiring that the organization be a 501c3. That's right here. It's a little grainy, sorry about that. So organizations, I think it was 145 organizations submitted an application to receive this grant funding. Some asked for millions of dollars, some asked for hundreds of thousands. It was all across the board. So there wasn't enough money to go around, and the city had to decide, how are we going to allocate this funding? We don't have enough money to go around. How are we gonna decide which organizations are gonna get the money and which aren't? And based on what we just talked about, what would you say that they created in order to figure out who is gonna get the money?
A committee.
Subcommittee, yes. Do you think that they chose a quorum of the council or less than a quorum of a council to sit on this subcommittee?
Less than.
Less than a quorum of a council. And why is that?
So they don't have to have minutes?
So they don't have to have minutes, so they don't have to have the public, so that nobody can see or hear how they're deciding to allocate this funding. And so that's what they did. They created the ARPA, what do they call it? The ARPA working group, I think, or something along those lines. ARPA something working group. And it was composed of 4 counselors. And they went into the boardroom there at City Hall and they sat down for several weeks. And they pared down this list of organizations who had applied for funding. And they got it down to, I think it was 45, is that right? 45 organizations. And on all of these organizations, again, were required to be 501c3 organizations. This is one of the organizations that made the list. This is the Black Wall Street Chamber of Commerce, who received this letter 11/24/2020 before filing before applying for this grant in 2021. Okay, you can see here that they are exempt under section 501c6, and we know the difference between that is their organization is for the benefit of their members, whereas a 501c3 is for the benefit of, or for a charitable purpose. So they apply in 2021, and I've got their application here. They apply and sign their application in
Do they have names on there?
2/17/2021, after they were notified that they were not a 501c3. So they apply, and not surprisingly, they somehow make it through this process. Now, this shows Sherry Gamble Smith as the president of that organization.
William Field.
But we know who's really in charge.
Here are all of the members of that organization. Do you see this name here?
Oh, boy.
That is a member at the time and still today of the Tulsa City Council. So they have a Tulsa City Councilor on the board. She's a co-founder of this organization. They received notice that they were not a 501c3 in 2020. In 2021, Vanessa Harper's organization applies for this grant funding. They create a subcommittee so that nobody can see what's going on. They go into the boardroom, they close the door, they decide who's gonna get the money out of 145 organizations. Not surprisingly, her organization ends up on the list of people who are going to receive funding. And that contract,
Is it a
that contract is signed here. The whole contract is in this presentation. That contract is signed here on 12/6/2021, over a year after they were told they are not a 501c3, they are a 501c6 organization. Now, the question that I asked that I don't have the answer to today is, how did it, and I emailed my city councilor, Phil Lakin, about this. I told him I was gonna come speak today. I would like to know, what his position on this is and how this occurred. I asked about it 2 years ago, so he knows that I know about this and that I still have the same question, but I wanted to make sure to ask him again and give him a chance to answer it. I did. He said he was busy, which I understand, he's a busy guy, and never did get back to me. So I don't have an answer from Phil today as to how this happened. So my question still remains, how does a 501c6 organization get all the way through this process, make it to the list, and then once it makes it to the list that's getting pared down, receive funding of the 5th largest award, by the way, out of the whole package? They received the 5th largest award, even though they're not a 501c6. How did they even make the list in the first place? Then how do you allow the city councilor whose organization it is to sit on the on the committee making the decisions? And then how do you award that funding behind closed doors with nobody being able to see what's going on and how they decided how this money was gonna get allocated? Okay, all of that is just an example. If you don't mind, I will take, I'm gonna end this as quickly as possible, and then I'll take.
It's not a question, it's just that everybody understands Charity Marcus is part of this as well. And so there's a connection between Vanessa Hall and Charity Marcus. I think
Okay.
everybody that relates to this.
Yeah, I have seen a background, a form that
She's part of
she is
Black
a
Wall
part of, was
Street.
part of a co-founding of this.
It's part of more than that.
Yeah.
I haven't verified that personally
I've
myself, but I have
verified
seen
it,
it. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I've also verified it.
So why do I tell you all of this? Well, it's not about $240,000. I mean, that is not a good thing. It's not a good thing that we get $240,000, but we're talking about $1 billion budget. We're talking about $12 million in ARPA funding, an $814 million IoT package. This is just a drop in the bucket. But it's a microcosm.
What's IoT?
Improve Our Tulsa 3. Yeah. But it's a microcosm of a much larger problem that exists throughout the city of Tulsa. This is just the most clear example of self-dealing that I could come up with. I mean, I hope that everyone in here, does anybody, I don't want to take questions right now, but is anybody like very unclear on how that process worked and how that shouldn't be the case? You're unclear?
Very clear.
Good
I'm saying
job.
it's very clear because also when I ran for county commissioner, they do the exact same process.
Yeah,
I questioned that because instead of the county commissioners, which is 3,
yeah.
are the governing body to make decisions, they have their elected deputies do the talking. And that's where they negotiate and then they come before, and I've talked to Darren about this, I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
Because the county commissioners let their deputies do the talking, and so.
Oh, so to end around that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so here's where we'll go from here now, and then I'm gonna open it up for questions, because, I mean, I think probably everybody has a lot of questions.
One or two.
Uh-oh.
So, what do we do about it? Like, what do we, now that we know that this is how it works, we know the system, we know the result of it is just blatant and obvious self-dealing within our governmental bodies that you can't see. What do we do about it? Well, the Open Meetings Act there's several changes that I believe need to be made to the Open Meeting Act, but there's 2 that are very vital. The first one is that anytime that 2 or more of a public body, and you'll have to read the definition of a public body within the Open Meeting Act to understand what that is, but it's city councils, it's school boards, it's county commissions, those types of bodies. Anytime that 2 or more of a public body meet and talk about city business, that should constitute an open meeting, and it should be subject to all of the minutes requirements, public attendance, everything that any other meeting requires.
I agree.
That's the first change that should be made, because that eliminates entirely the gaming of the system, where, oh, okay, well, we'll just keep it under, we'll just keep it under a quorum, and now we can go talk about this stuff privately. No more of that. That'll eliminate that. And then 2,
Grant, microphone.
sorry. And then 2, anytime that a quorum of the council or more meets, regardless of whether they're talking about city business, it should constitute an open meeting. You'll have these, I've got on my Facebook, recently I posted some pictures of our Tulsa City Council.
Oops, we lost it.
Such a lovely group.
Where did I put that?
Further down. It's further down.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought I posted the pictures. I guess I put it on my story. Anyway, I put it into another group and I put it on the story on this page, but I've got photos of 6 and 5 of the councilors meeting together for lunch and Christmas parties and this type of thing. How can we possibly know whether city business was discussed and whether any decisions were made and whether any agreements were come to among a quorum of the council if there's not an open meeting called? So anytime that a quorum of the council is together, whether or not they're discussing city business, it should constitute an open meeting. And anytime 2 or more councilors are together and they discuss city business, that should also constitute an open meeting. Those are the 2 main changes that I think we need from our state legislature. We need to do that. We shouldn't have to do that. The city of Tulsa, the Tulsa City Council, the county commissions, the school boards, they should just be adhering to these things to be on the safe side. Even the Oklahoma Supreme Court has said that the Open Meetings Act is to be construed liberally in favor of transparency. So they should already be doing these things, and they should be embarrassed not to be doing them, but instead they openly end around having open meetings and having the transparency. And they'll say that it's for efficiency. Oh, well, we can't, sit at these committee meetings and discuss all of these things. We need to have, we need to have these meetings so that we can get more city business done more efficiently. We can't do it in our standing committees and our council meetings. And I would say one of 2 things. Either, too bad, you need to figure out how to do it in that time, or else just open the meetings up for the public to go in there and hold yourself accountable to the Open Meetings Act, even if you don't have to. I don't understand why it's such a big ask for you to talk about government business in front of the public. I mean, I just don't understand it. And so, those are the things we can do. We need to organize and really, I think we need to coalesce around transparency in the Open Meetings Act, because yes, I understand everybody has their own individual ideas about what should change and what's most important to them. But if we don't attack that issue first and foremost, then none of you are going to be able to get to the bottom of any of the issues that you're most interested in. So it's like a first principles type of thing here. If we don't fix that, then none of the other issues are gonna get fixed. So I guess, real quick before I take questions, this is my Facebook page, by the way, Grant Miller. If you're not following it, I put out a lot of information here. Sometimes I put out pictures of my cute children too. Like that.
Your kids are awesome.
I put out a lot of information on this page, and then at the very top of it is a Substack that I've started writing on the higher level topics, not just once a week or once every couple of weeks, I'll put out an article. So if you'll go to my Facebook page real quick and follow that, and then just click on the link at the top to the Substack and follow that Substack, I think you'll find a lot of this information useful to you as you try to address your elected officials, so especially locally. So with that, I guess we will open for questions.
I understand there's been a lawsuit filed regarding the ARPA funds. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I think there was a lawsuit filed. I don't know if that's still active or not.
I believe it is. Jennifer Harmon is
I don't know
involved.
if Jennifer filed. I don't know if she filed a
think she
lawsuit
did.
on it or not. I think I have to stay out of any kind of those type of issues, because it's one of the things that prevented me from becoming an attorney. So I don't, I think the best way to address this is to use your voice and use your speech to petition your elected officials and demand that they hold themselves accountable, and you hold them accountable as well.
Replace them.
I think right here was next.
Yeah, so I have a comment to what Cheryl said and then a question.
Yes.
So the comment is, I did ask Cindy Bird to audit what you just revealed about Vanessa Hall Harper and Terry Marcus and the Black Wall Street nonprofit that they started, knowing that they were a 501c6, did not, qualify, and they took $240,000. She said she would send her documentation to prove it. She has done nothing. Could it be because Rhonda and Charity Marcus are supporting her in her bid for Attorney General? Just a question. So the next thing would be, when you were a city councilor, is it not true that at least 2 or 3 of the city councilors were texting each other during one of the city council meetings, which is against the rules?
Yeah, so I've been pushing on this issue since like week 1 of being elected and getting in there. It's like, I recognized transparency and openness as the first issue that needed to be solved before we could even consider anything else, because to me, opening those doors and allowing the public to see what's actually happening behind the scenes is going to be the thing that's gonna be most effective in the changes that you wanna see in Tulsa and surrounding areas come to fruition. So, in the midst of that, I was chairing a council meeting at one point. I asked a question about the Gilcrease Museum, which is also another topic that could go on for 2 hours.
Being over budget?
And I noticed these three counselors are snickering, they don't want to talk, I could tell, and they start picking up their phone, texting, ding, text, and they're picking up their phone and texting. And so I'm like, okay, we have a quorum of the council present. Okay, and I'm talking about city business, the Gilcrease Museum issue, and homelessness, and kind of the intersection of those two things. Why are we spending another $10 million on the Gilcrease when you said it was going to be half the price it is, and now it's twice as much? We're allocating $10 more million in IoT3 when we could spend $10 million maybe on solving the homelessness problem. Why are we doing this? So that was my question, and then they start texting amongst themselves. So. I immediately do an open records request and say, I want any text messages that we're discussing city business at this meeting between this time and this time. And if they hadn't been discussing city business, those text messages would not have been available to me. They would not have had to turn those over to me. But they did turn those text messages over to me, and they did talk about the Gilcrease and the $10 million funding. And so that was sort of a admission that they were discussing city business. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given them to me. Now, the next question is, where were you discussing city business? Privately among a quorum of the council? Okay, I personally believe that to be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Right. There was a lawsuit filed on it, and that goes down a whole nother path. I don't think it went anywhere. I think it was ultimately dismissed. It was discredited because there's kind of a wild attorney out there. I like him personally. He's a good guy, but he does do things he does things very differently, and the bar doesn't approve of it, and that's not my deal to get into. But the lawsuit was ultimately dismissed, I believe, and so nothing ever came of it. But I still believe to this day they were texting about city business among the council. They were bold enough to do that right on the camera during an open meeting. They just have no regard, no respect for open meetings, transparency, saying the things that you want to say in quiet out loud so everybody can hear.
Did Black Wall Street, the group that applied for the ARPA money, did they ever receive the 501c3 status?
They had been a 501c3 at some point in the past.
They are not currently?
I haven't done like an update, but at the time that they were allocated the money, they weren't, and that's what was important to me, not whether or not they ultimately figured it out, right? I mean, this is the same thing you'll see here. I'll give you one more example of the kind of shenanigans that go on. You'll see here that somebody made an open records request for any conflicts of interest on file for Vanessa Hall Harper. And I'll circle back to what you were just saying. The council wrote this off, or the council administrator wrote an email when an ethics complaint was filed against Vanessa Hall Harper, saying that the ethics ordinances have not been universally understood, and that since Vanessa Hall Harper eventually filed a conflict disclosure, that the fact that she didn't file a disclosure on her conflict of interest on this issue is a moot issue. Now, I say that to say, the whole I can go get my 501c3 later and now I'm covered. I don't know if that would fly also because of this.
No, it shouldn't.
So, yes.
I have another question. I was on the Salvation Army Board of Directors when they received ARPA money, and it was a boatload of money.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was from national or if that was from the same pile of money that came to Tulsa.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was all couched in homeless. And to me, it seems that we have given millions and millions and millions of dollars to the homeless when we had about 1,500 homeless people. so has that number increased, the number of homeless?
When I was there, they had done a point in time count, I think the 2023 point in time count. And the number of homeless after spending all of this money, the, previous 3 or 4 years, because they really ramped that up, 2019, 20, 21, 22. After spending all those millions of dollars, I think the number had maybe gone up 100 or something like that. So it was very similar.
This is just an observation, and I ended up leaving the board because I just felt like it was all part of the system.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure, just like I don't have a trust of Red Cross anymore, I also don't have it of Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Red
And
Cross is
so,
really bad.
So the homeless issue is used as a bell cow
Yes.
for all of us to be influenced to increase the funding or to approve a package when we still have, let's say, 1,600 homeless people and millions and millions of dollars have gone toward that, the same as Gilcrease.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's so hard to pinpoint what is the truth when we're maybe told the week before a meeting on a Tuesday night from 5:30 to 6:30, and then they don't allow any questions.
Right, yeah, they'll have 2 or 3, they have they had, I think, town halls, they called them, they set up these tables around the room. You go around, they tell you how great this part of it is, this part of it is, this part of it is, but there's no chance, you can give your feedback, but there's nobody there who can make any decision. There's no real opportunity to ask the question, why do we still have 1,600 homeless after spending, say, $20 million in the last 3 years? It doesn't make any sense. And so, that's a big problem. The I would love to come back at some point and talk to you guys about the Brown Amendment process, which is what allowed for the Gilcrease Museum to go the way that it did. They promised a $65 million expansion, then they used a little, they changed the operative word from expansion to facilities improvements, and all of a sudden, voila, it goes from a $65 million expansion to a $140 million demolition and rebuild. And they just use a procedural tool called the Brown Amendment to pull that off, without ever asking you, the voters, the taxpayers, hey, do we want to more than double the budget and tear down this historic museum and rebuild a new one, or do we not? Rather than that, they just kind of wave the magic Brown Amendment wand and change the project.
But who changed that? Who made that change? That amendment?
Well, I've asked, I tried to get to the bottom of who actually made that decision. I can't pin it down to any one person, but what I would say about that is this. Well, first of all, how do a group of engineers, engineers, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, art experts go into this museum and say, oh yeah, it looks like about, $65 million renovation. And then a few months later or a year later say, it turns out we were way off on that. We gotta tear the whole thing down and it's gonna cost twice as much. That doesn't make any sense to me, but I cannot get to the bottom of who made the actual decision. But what I'll tell you, this is the buck stops with the Tulsa City Council, because it is their job to get to the bottom of that question and then not allow something like that to happen without going back to the people and saying, is this still something you want to do now that the budget has more than doubled and we're going to wipe out this historic facility?
So the contractor then is the one that made the money, but in other words,
No, I don't think so.
so who did make the money? So, in other
You mean
words.
when you say like who?
Yeah,
who's
so why did
profiting?
they do this? Where did the money go? And are people actually buying off the counselors? I know Kaiser has, and Phil Lakin works for Kaiser and he kind of controls Tulsa.
Yeah.
But,
They're bought out.
who is buying out these city councilors to have these private meetings and do this? If they're not making money,
I
then
don't
no
have
reason
any
for them to do
evidence.
it.
I don't have any evidence of any specific person coming out and saying, "Hey, you need to. I want this project, and you need to do it. And here's some cash."
Yeah.
If that's what you're asking about.
Kind of.
But I just feel like there's this general. There's this kind of general. I don't know what the word is like.
come along, get along?
Yeah, well, there's definitely going along to get along, but there's just a kind of a general, yeah, maybe general consensus, maybe, that we want to do these things in a certain, echelon of the city is deciding, well, we want these shiny things, we want a new Gilchrist
Right.
Museum, and we want a Zinc Lake attraction, and we want, whatever it might be, whatever the big shiny thing is at the time, and we need to support our homeless, I call it the homeless industrial complex, I mean, like, we gotta support our homelessness industrial complex. These people have jobs and they do such good work, and it's like, they have their agendas, and I don't think anybody's explicitly paying them off. I just think they get in there, it feels good for them to be a counselor, they get a little power hungry, they enjoy the pats on the backs and the steak dinners, and, and that becomes more important than actually opening it up and being a representative of, regular Tulsans. So, sorry, Melissa's been.
Another layer of this is something that I brought up at county commissioner, to city, to school board, is executive session. So they will start their meeting, everything's unicorns and rainbows, and then we get into the meat of the meeting, and then they adjourn for executive session. So I have always brought up, what's good for back there should be good for whoever is sitting in here in this meeting, and they shut it down every single time, and I think that they should not be able to do that. And I brought that up numerous times, that I'm like, what are they really talking about over here?
I mean, there is a
for another 30
carve out in
minutes?
the Open Meetings Act for executive sessions, and for good reason, I mean, there's sometimes they have to deal with personnel issues that might be sensitive, whether they're
I
dealing with
get
medical
that.
issues or, something like that. Settlements that have to remain confidential because that's part of the settlement
get
agreement,
that.
or details of it at least. Something like that, there is good reason for, but if they are abusing executive
Correct.
session.
Which they do.
It's gonna be, my position on that would be similar to what I said about the council using sub-quorum committees, is like, you might be within the law doing this, maybe, but it's still not the right thing to do.
Correct.
Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right.
Correct.
And so, spirit of the law, exactly right. And so I guess that's what I would say on that, and it deserves the same attention, you just go and look and see what the provisions are that allow, for those executive sessions, what you see actually going on, and maybe that's another change that would be needed to the Open Meetings Act to kind of tamp that down so it can't be abused so easily. I just narrow it down to those two pieces of the Open Meetings Act, because I think that those are very obvious loopholes, very obvious changes that could be made that our state legislators will be able to easily understand and agree with and say, yeah, I mean, if these people are discussing city business, we don't want them loopholing the Open Meetings Act. So if we get too spread out on the issue, I think it might get people, even legislators might get lost in the weeds. But I think if we focus in on these two things must change, in addition to hitting the city council and saying, hold yourselves accountable, and in the meantime, we'll try to get these changes made. But I think by narrowing the focus and kind of laser focusing on the one issue, it's a lot more likely that we could get something done on that. I do not know who was next. I think maybe Karen.
Probably.
Christie was.
So an interesting investigation for anybody in here is to go find out how many nonprofits or LLCs that Charity Marcus has, how many of them have Vanessa Hall Harper connected to them, and how many have gotten funded with money from the Tulsa City Council, from ARPA, from different things, and how many of them, namely Ellison Academy for one, that has the former Tulsa County GOP members now getting funded from these funds.
Wow.
So that information is all out there, and it all tracks back to what Grant is saying. Anybody can do that investigation. It's not that hard, and I'm telling you, it's quite interesting.
So, and once you get that information, what are we gonna do with it?
Well, I had hoped, Cindy Bird said she would do an audit, but she is not doing an audit. So that should tell you who you don't vote for Attorney General.
She is not running for Attorney General,
I'm
she is
sorry.
running
Lieutenant
for
Governor.
Lieutenant Governor.
Sorry.
And she has, in a position of auditor, an obligation
down,
to
Dave.
follow the law and she has to be directed by officials in order to do an investigative
She told me
audit.
personally she would do the audit. She has received the information, after she personally said she would do it and then is not.
Who does she have to be
So,
directed by?
you're correct, it's
The
Lieutenant.
governor or the legislature.
Yeah, it's not Attorney
Well,
General, but I'm just
or-
saying, you guys, we need to look at that because Charity Marcus is
no,
out there
I don't-
promoting her. Is there a connection there? I'm not saying there is or there isn't, but it is suspect.
Well, okay, I think that
Yeah.
that's good information then.
Yeah.
David
But-
says that he thinks that either the governor, maybe Lieutenant
Attorney
Governor,
General.
Attorney General, or a member of the state legislature could direct her to do that. So I would say petition, your representative and try to get them to get her to do the audit if that's maybe that'd be an easier route to go or a better route to go. I don't know. I haven't looked at that, but that's just what he said. Go ahead.
Okay, the big thing is, number one, this is how you run the money. It's 814 million. They have over like 100 and some million that went to BOK that is personally owned.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why is the city paying personally owned people? So we call it private partnership
Private public
with
partnership.
501c3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now, no piece of land in Tulsa is ran by the city.
Mhm.
It's all covered. You can't go to a park that's not a 501c3 in charge of it. Then we have Kaiser who put in, the big place there. He got money back from the city for that. Then we built that, bridge across the water,
Yeah.
which is private, which was ridiculous amount of money. We offered them to do many things that would lower it, whatever, they didn't do it. Anyway, I'm just telling you, the millions of dollars, the other thing that they're doing is they're taking your land,
Yep.
and they're doing it through INCOG.
Yep.
Yep.
Billions of dollars straight from Soros, all of the whole woke land.
Yep.
And they're putting money into your city right here and other places, giving you a loan or some kind of grant to build basically, the cities, welcome cities.
Well, again, I would say,
And it's just, so back to one thing
Yeah.
before we finish, because of that, this can all stop if we change. I have already been lobbying. I said, you'll change Oklahoma if you change the Open Records Act.
That's right.
Yeah.
But this is another thing, you have an Edmondson, who was the Attorney General, wrote a piece of, whatever you wanna call it, trying to say that you can't talk in a city meeting. That's a lie. Number two, by the law, they have to give equal time. So that's how come they always have a prior meeting to the public meeting, where they'll have somebody come and promote some woke thing for umpteen thousands of dollars. And so I offered to give the same 45-minute presentation that was gonna be about 20% of the cost. They wouldn't let me do it.
Nope.
So if we change this to open meeting and not have a clause that they cannot shut down or limit you then more than X amount of minutes or whatever, and then you can come back and do it again or something. But we have to open up the ability to ask questions.
Yeah, I think the very least that they could do is offer us the ability to hear what they're doing and see what they're doing.
Hey, Grant, Dana was waiting on.
Yeah, yeah.
Perhaps you address this, I missed your opening remarks because I've been counting notes.
That's okay.
Thank you for coming today,
Yeah.
I'm so anxious to hear you.
Yeah.
My city councilor is Phil Lakin.
Okay.
And I have squawked at the top of my lungs for as long as I can think.
Okay.
Is there not a conflict of interest that he works for Kaiser, who is a developer?
Correct.
Right
And
there.
he's voting to approve Kaiser-sponsored. Where is there something in the bylaws in the city that would prohibit him and make him?
Well, so as far as that goes, what is required if you have a conflict of interest is that you disclose the conflict, that you don't participate in any discussion on the topic, whatever the topic is that you have a.
But you still get to vote.
Does he
conflict
recuse
on.
himself?
And then recuse himself. He does often recuse himself, and he doesn't engage, as far as I've seen, in conversation on topics. What I'm about to say is not to say that he has done this. I'm saying how would you know if he had, if they're having discussions in some
Behind closed doors.
committees behind closed doors? That's not an accusation. That's not me even implying that he has done that. I hope everybody understands that. I'm just saying, how would you know? How would you know if that's happening? If they don't open these committee meetings to the public? So, that's what I would say about that. He's now I just moved, so he's now my city councilor as well. I will tell you that, Bellis's organization is funded by, is an NGO, a lot of city money, federal, state, city money.
What is that?
Laura Bellis.
Yeah.
You've got Vanessa Hall Harper, who we just saw that grift. And then you've got,
I love it.
Phil, TCF, of course. A lot of the organizations under the TCF umbrella are receiving federal and, local grants. And then you've got Lori Dector-Wright, who I think she worked for a nonprofit, if I'm not mistaken, before that received funding. And now she's gotten a cushy little job as the CEO of Tulsa Opera, making 6 figures after voting on IoT3 to give money. So there's a whole, there's a whole lot of the counselors up there who have a lot to gain. Now, and that's again not an accusation that they've done anything explicitly corrupt. I'm just saying there's smoke and everybody can see it. So. I'm sorry, I'm just saying that's not an accusation that any of them have explicitly done something corrupt or taken money for, in exchange for anything. I'm just saying there's smoke, that's, we can all see that, so, yes.
You keep talking about changes to the Open Meetings Act. Is there specifically an Oklahoma Meetings Act that is different than the federal version?
Yes, so the federal version is Freedom of Information Act.
Okay.
So if you're asking a federal agency for documents or, something like that, you would
So
file
same as Open
file a
Records.
Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma, it's the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act and the Oklahoma Open Records Act. And specifically, we should be asking our state legislators to make these two obvious changes. And they wouldn't, I understand why it was written like that originally, but now that it's getting taken advantage of and we're having these closed door meetings where city councilors in eligible organizations are being allocated the 5th largest grant award, it's time that we say, hey, this kind of thing can't happen. We understand you wanted to be able to be flexible and for these representatives to be able to have conversations and be efficient. But when lack of transparency and self-dealing starts to override the need for efficiency, it's time that you tamp that down.
Okay.
So Grant, I did the deep dive into Gilcrease Museum, and there's a partnership with Tulsa. I just looked it up under You Can Go to University of Tulsa. And this all started back in 2008. They laid the groundwork for Reimagine Visitor Experience, now on the horizon. And you know who's behind it is Kathy Taylor. She's pretty much running.
Another good one.
Yeah.
Kathy Taylor.
Well, we've got all this establishment, and this might not be a popular decision on my part with the group that I'm in front of today. But once we had the decision to vote between Monroe and Karen Keith, it was an easy decision for me. It became an easy decision. I don't want this establishment running Tulsa anymore. We need people, at least if you, whether agree or disagree with Monroe's positions, at the very least, he says he's not part of that whole establishment Tulsa that is just controlling everything going on, or wasn't. Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. I don't know. But at least at the time, he wasn't. And so I would rather at least know what we're up against than have this kind of backdoor horse trading going on.
Which is why he's in office. A lot of people agreed with you.
Right.
I mean, he's the third coming of Kathy Taylor. She has been involved in everything, every job he's ever had, every position he's ever run.
Yeah.
She refers to him as her son.
There you go.
Oh, well, there you have it.
That explains it.
I don't know how that works.
All right, yes.
Okay, so we have an election coming up, right? I mean, immediately for
Uh-huh.
all 9 positions to be refilled.
Is that coming in 26?
2026.
Yeah.
What if we had some total conservatives in that position? How much change can they make if Monroe is the mayor? I was told by a certain city council person that you take your orders from the mayor. Yeah,
Can you-
that's what there's some 2 week.
That's a problem. So that's a problem as well as the culture of the Tulsa City Council and the structure of our government. I would like to see, and the fact that we don't have partisan elections anymore. We need to get that back on. We need to have partisan elections for our municipal government. But the culture is just as important. And we have a culture where whoever told you that is exactly right. That's how it goes. The orders come from the mayor, stamp, 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 everything's done. And that's how legislation and
That's not
budgeting
how it's
goes in the
supposed to
city of
go,
Tulsa.
though.
That is not how it's supposed to go. We should sort of mirror what you see at the federal or state level where, the budget comes down and then we're supposed to look through the budget, send it back and say, no, we don't like these things. We need to change this. We need to change that. Maybe it even goes back and forth a few times as the city councilors look at the actual line item budget, which, speaking of, I've got this pulled up. It says, elected officials are often faced with making difficult fiscal decisions, We have to dig deeper, and dig we will. We are committed to a bottom-up budget review, line by line, to operate more efficiently, reduce avoidable costs, and grow responsible revenues within our current tax structure. That is an amazing statement from them, to say the least, after everything that you've seen them do over the last decade. That is not how things have ever gone. I stood up there and took a lot of heat for saying we needed a line-by-line review of IOT3 before we spent $814 million, but that is not what happened. And so it's interesting to see this shift, but if they're being honest about that, and they are committed to that, then let's see them commit to holding themselves accountable to the Open Meetings Act, whether or not there is a quorum present, and stop the closed-door committee meetings. That would be a good faith sign, not just words.
Christian Bangle actually told me.
I know I wasn't gonna say that out loud. I knew that.
He
tells everybody.
He told me that for 2 weeks you guys were in a meeting and that you were told to do everything the mayor said.
Yeah.
So let's say we get total, and if we get people elected, then we have to get out and do something besides to sit here and talk about all the bad stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Because it's never gonna change until we get the right people in office.
Yeah.
And we gotta get people in office that have backbone and can stand up against stuff. That's
Yeah.
the other thing, because I really worked with Christian. And I worked with a lot of, the people that said they were good Republicans, and they won't stand up to anything.
Because
Well, I mean,
you have
I
to
watched
be
that- I watched that
Republicans, we're really
materialize.
Republicans.
Well,
Amen.
Grant, you came to my door one day, I don't know if you remember this, and asked if I would, vote for you, and I said, yes, put your sign out there, I don't have time to talk to you, just put your sign out there. Give me
You
a
already
ton of
knew.
sign- Give me a ton of signs, you were an independent at the time, I don't know. if you still-
Libertarian, yeah.
Libertarian, so I was so for you, and so glad that you were there.
Right.
And I'm so sorry that you made such a difference, and it cost you so much. And people don't wanna pay the price.
Right.
That's right.
We wanna talk, a big talk and a big game. But I guarantee you, if we had the same thing going on, and we had and we were all, Republicans and what we are, and we were all very conservative, hey, I wouldn't mind having that non-open deal where we can make all the changes in our little closed doors and not have all the criticism from the from the demonic side, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll just change the culture
Yeah.
in our little backward, so we can do the same thing.
Well, yeah, but-
That's the,
Yeah, you
Doesn't make
first
it
have to
right.
have people willing to go up there and say the things, and then you have to have an ally.
So
So
who's gonna do
the
that?
mistake for me was I went up there to say the things, but I had no allies. I had
Right.
nobody up there to have my back,
Well, but you went in thinking you had at least a couple.
Yeah, I thought
And
so.
then they-
But when I learned that it wasn't, I just made the conscious decision that I could have just sat down and been quiet, and gone along and sat in there. I probably would have gotten reelected, but it just isn't in my nature to do that. And so I made a conscious decision, I'm gonna go it alone, I guess, and whatever the consequences are, they are. But we need to get 2 or 3 or 4, because somebody messaged me on my Facebook the other day and said, we don't have any Republicans on the city council, right? And I said, oh, sure, we have 5. You just wouldn't know it, you know?
Yeah.
You just wouldn't know. We have 5 Republicans and no conservatives. And
Exactly.
so you're gonna have 2 or 3 at least in there that can coalesce around these ideas.
Yep.
And Lori Dr. Wright just changed her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, you've got 6, that's right. You've got 6 Republicans and no conservatives.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
We should not allow that.
Yes, ma'am.
Cindy Bird was mentioned in an audit. I heard her report for the Tulsa Public Schools. And she didn't talk in thousands, she talked in millions of dollars in so many departments. But she can't follow up on it, the Attorney General has to follow up on it, so it's to no avail if nobody follows up on it.
Right, right. Yeah, I agree with that. We've got a great guy running right now for Attorney General, John Eccles. I think he's gonna be a real law and order, candidate. He's gonna do the right thing, he's gonna follow the law. And so I think, I never would tell you who to vote for, but I would say, look at John Eccles closely and see what he has to say, because I think, for me, he's gonna be the best choice. Yes.
One more question, and then we gotta.
Sure. Last one, kind of next steps to follow up how we can follow through with what you talked about. Our legislators have to have their mock bills turned in the first week of December. So you talk about what we can do. Is there certain people, or should we just blast everybody about the 2 changes you suggest to the Open Meetings Act? If maybe we could send out as a club, here's a draft email to send to representatives like this week to let them know here's what
You need to write the bill yourself,
Yes,
and then you give it to a senator, because they have unlimited amount that they can.
that would be good.
Put in,
I would say every individual should reach out to their representative for one, because they all talk amongst themselves. But then, yes.
Can't do that.
I've
I
got
have 2
some
Democrats.
allies in the legislature, so if you want to get your group together and say, hey, this
Your
is
senator
who's
needs to
willing to
author that
help us
damn bill.
petition these representatives, and then we can kind of
Get it from
target one who may
Grant.
be
Grant, send
open
it to you, and pass it on to Dan.
writing or making these changes when they turn. When did you say this?
The first week of December.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Move pretty
Brad was
quick.
running a public comment.
Then they refine them in
Okay.
January.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, if, I'll
Yeah.
get with Chris
Yeah,
and, or
absolutely.
Melissa, and then maybe we can get a good group of you
Yes.
together that can go to one, I'll find out who I think, in my opinion, the right representative is.
Okay.
And then maybe we can go all directly to that person and say, will you please author this?
That sounds great.
Grant,
Thank
on
you.
a side note, what do you need from us to help you in your next step next month?
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing?
So I'll be reapplying
You
to
don't
the
know.
I'll be reapplying to the Oklahoma bar, January 16th. They told me no for 2 years, that I could come back and reapply, extended my bar results for 3 years, so I'll have a year to apply and get that done. How can you help me? Well, I'm gonna need, last time I went in there thinking that the Board of Bar Examiners would see that this was all a big political game, and that this is attorneys sitting up here, and, I'm not too worried about it. I had a couple of character witnesses on the list. I brought one in, former president of the Oklahoma Bar, who testified on my behalf. I said, let's let these city councilors and the mayor and all these leftist activists come in, say whatever they want, because this is the Bar Association, they're gonna see what's going on. And turns out I was wrong. So I need character witnesses. If you
got me.
know me personally, it can't just be that you kind of heard me talk once or twice. But if you know me personally and you would like to be a character witness, if you could reach out to either Melissa or Chris, and I would like to get some notarized character statements to send in with my application. And in that, if you would just say if you're willing to come and testify at a hearing, should they decide that they want to have it.
And I'm a notary.
I'm a notary
And
as
Cheryl's a
well.
notary and Chris is a notary. So
Where
can-
would we just send those to you?
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing is that, that you believe that, if you believe that I have the requisite character fitness and respect for the law, here's what you know of who I am and what I've done, here's why you believe I'm a good candidate to be an attorney in Oklahoma, and that you're aware that I was denied before. That's an important one. You're aware of the fact that I was denied, and you either agree or disagree with it, and here's why I should be an attorney.
I have a question. Do numbers speak? I mean, I know you've got people speaking for you, but do you need faces there that?
Yeah, so these will be like letters, right, that'll be notarized. I'll send it in with my application. They could just approve my application and then we're done. or they could send me a pre-denial notice again and say, hey, you're gonna have to come to another hearing. And in that case, if you would notate in the letter, I'm willing to, should there be a hearing, I'm willing to testify on his behalf.
If you're not gonna testify, though, don't come. If you're just gonna be there to be like, we support him, like just.
Yeah, it's not open to the public, it's not open to the public,
Okay,
so.
that's what she was
Yeah,
asking. That's what he's saying.
yeah, yeah.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
In my statement, can I say that your integrity is higher than that of the board?
Try to keep it nice.
I'm just saying.
Try to keep it nice.
I'm the mayor, ex-mayor of Tulsa.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys all so much. I really appreciate it. Anything that I can do to help, I'm still here to help.
Okay, I want to catch everybody before people start leaving. I am told that we have quorum. I just want to read to you what our bylaws say about that. Because they, I think, might be a little vague, but it says, members will vote to ratify new officers with a quorum vote of members in attendance. So that's different than the total number of members, right?
I'll be there for you.
So, we have 48 in attendance. So we only need 24. 25, and we have that. Yes. So, we can go ahead and do our vote really quick. So.
Finish introducing these people?
Yeah, we did.
only two.
Dana and Carol, do you want to quickly just introduce yourselves to everybody?
I guess this is just proof that we're members.
I'm Carol Turner. I've been the treasurer most of this year. I would like to continue, but I have a horrible thing to tell you. I'm $25 short today on my cash. So somebody, if all the ones that paid cash, if you would just look and see if maybe you didn't pay.
Oops.
Did you say you did?
Oh, no, anyway.
Okay.
I used a card. I used my card.
Okay.
Anyway, I would like to continue. It's been,
We just have a cash discrepancy.
At least we know. I didn't want to say.
Dana?
Where are you? Do you have a pink slip? Okay, I didn't have it checked off, I wanted to make sure. My name's Dana Houston, and I attended this meeting, my friend Lee McMahon brought me, and I would say I am a rebel. I've always been a rebel with a cause. We're looking for a cause, and I have found my people. Yay! So I love coming to these meetings. My whole thing, my passion is making sure that voters are educated about issues. And that's what I love about this club, is that its purpose